Greetings, everyone, and welcome to the 165th edition of Cinema Effect. I'm Zach, and I'm joined by my fellow Ludwig Göransson appreciator, Jaden.
Howdy.
Howdy. And, of course, we've got Charlie Day, aka Luigi. I was trying to make a connection to someone in the movie. I don't know, have you ever been compared to Casey Affleck before?
No. You could say, like Josh Quaid appreciator, or Josh Hartnett. I'm also a Josh Hartnett appreciator.
Okay, Josh Hartnett appreciator, aka Fitzy, aka Liam.
I can see the Casey Affleck though, Zach.
For some reason, I can see, like, I went from Charlie Day sort of naturally took me to Casey Affleck somehow. I don't know, like just in the face. And then I feel like there's an evolution of sorts there, maybe. I don't know.
But I feel like the way Casey Affleck like acts, I feel like I could see Liam, like, you know, inhabiting the same kind of persona.
Melancholic.
Nah, what's that one where like he's like a bit of a dodgy person? Or is that just him in real life? Maybe.
I feel like he's got the vocal range as well. You know what I mean? Like he sort of has. Casey Affleck has a unique sort of voice, a little bit. Not where it's like stand out weird or anything, but it's like.
Yeah, I you get to recognize, but he's gotten to the point in popularity where you can recognize his voice.
Absolutely.
Like in the movie where you couldn't see his face, and you're like, oh, that's Casey Affleck.
I couldn't. I was trying to place it, and I was like, fuck. I was like, I know this person so much, and then you find his face, like, obviously, dickhead.
Yeah. Were you expecting him to pop up?
Me? No.
Anyone? No?
Fitzy? I don't think so. I mean, I looked at the cast beforehand, and I don't know if I remembered it because there's just so many faces. Like,
yeah.
I remember seeing Gary Oldman as Truman in the cast. That's why I knew it was him. But
sure.
I don't think I remember seeing Casey Affleck.
Yeah. I mean, we'll obviously talk about the cast, but that's the thing. There was the cast list was so stacked that it's sort of just all blurred, and I sort of forgot who I was looking for, you know? So it just sort of ended up being a surprise anyway, even though I had seen the list. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Cinema Effect, the podcast where we review and talk about a different movie every single Monday. You can find the show on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, all those apps. So do subscribe if you enjoy the show. This week, the movie we are talking about is the newly released Oppenheimer. It opened in the US on July 21st, 2023. It was directed by Christopher Nolan, up-and-comer in this Hollywood industry, of course. It is a biography drama, and the synopsis says, the story of American scientist J. Robert Oppenheimer and his role in the development of the atomic bomb. Very broad, but I like it. I'm fine with that. Now, we had the pleasure of viewing this film together. It was quite exciting, at least I thought so.
Semi-together.
I sat on the other side of the theatre. That was fun. I don't know. I actually don't really know how you guys feel about it, to be honest. I know we talked about some little things, but I feel like I know everyone else's opinion on planet Earth, except the two most important ones, you know? So, Jaden, what did you think of Oppenheimer?
Yeah, good question, Zach.
Thank you.
I thought it was really fantastic. I thought it was super engrossing, super kind of just hypnotic and mesmerizing, especially in that kind of just intro and like the way that it kind of like those quick cuts to like, you know, their visualization of like atoms is really kind of draws you in from the start. I didn't know what this movie was. Like in that I didn't know whether it was a war epic or if it was really a biopic or if it was something else. Was it action or was there a sci-fi twist or some shit? So having it just as a 3-hour long biopic was a not surprise, but like because that didn't come out of nowhere. But like, you know, I wasn't entirely sure if that's what it was.
Yes, I mean this was, I think for all of us, of course, this is an anticipated film. This is my most anticipated film of the year, no doubt. Anything Nolan does, he has to be my favourite filmmaker at this point. And having now seen the film, all 3 hours of it, there's no doubt that this movie is of exceptional quality. Like, I've listened to a fair few interviews with the man himself this week, and one thing, he was asked, interestingly, sort of what he hopes his name being on a film poster means to people when you see that a film by Christopher Nolan up the top there. And he just said that he hopes that it means that the audience understands they're going to get, you know, the highest quality technical experience that everyone involved, including myself, put their hearts and souls into, and that's it. And, you know, you'd be the judge of it, but you know you're going to get the very best we had to offer. And there's no doubt that's exactly what this was. They totally nailed that. I was in on the journey, immersed in the life of this dude. The script was written very interestingly in the first person, and watching it play out, that doesn't surprise me. You really feel very locked into Oppenheimer's experience, which is awesome. The film, probably I was in the same boat as Jaden, where, yeah, I just wasn't 100% sure. I avoided all trailers and all sort of sense outside of just, I knew it was about this guy. I knew it was about Oppenheimer. That's it. I knew a little bit about him, but sort of avoided learning anything further. So I was sort of in the boat where I was a little bit surprised of how straight a biopic it was. And it's an amazing biopic. But I think that just for me means it's not top Nolan. I also don't think I get the film entirely yet. Like, get it, all caps, to be honest, quite yet, which will probably be evident in some of the things I ask about you guys today, some of your takes. And I, of course, will be rewatching it a few times with subtitles and shit. So, yeah, anyway, it's a great film. It's an excellent film, no doubt about that. Fitzy, I don't know, I took a little peek. I think you checked it out twice.
Oh, so, yeah, I might have had another second.
Had a cheeky second go around.
Yeah.
What'd you think?
No, yeah, it was really fantastic. I don't know. It's got all the traditional like Nolan greatnesses in terms of, scale and technical elements and shit. But I think it's like a historical weight to it, I guess, and partly makes it like more than other films in his catalog, I guess. And it feels, I mean, me and Andy were talking about yesterday. He was talking about like how the dialogue in this film, it's more meaningful. It's not just exposition. Everything feels like it's building towards more meaning, I guess. But yeah, overall, it's just really fantastic. Like just building up to the Manhattan Project, it's just exciting and tense. And then the last hour as well, as a kind of, I don't know, like fallout of the other, half the film is just really fantastic.
Yeah, for sure. I do want to briefly sort of just touch on our experience watching the film itself, because we had the pleasure of seeing this film in the 7mm IMAX film.
7.
I said 70.
Oh,
didn't I? Did it come out weird? Did it come out weird?
I thought I heard 7.
7. Wow, that'd be crazy if there was that small. And I don't say it to be like, I don't know, weird or braggy about it. I just think it's quite a unique experience because it's the perfect Nolan experience. It's the pinnacle of how he envisioned the film to be seen. And then from there, because everyone's, loves talking to him about like, oh, how do you feel about people watching your films on their phones, And like, he doesn't mind, but he always talks about how he creates the film, with the specific pinnacle experience in mind, and then the rest of the alternate ways you can watch it, so it sort of just trickles down from there. And we experienced that peak, So I think that's worth pointing out. And to maybe alleviate some confusion that I know we were talking about, Jaden, was the fact that this is the only screen in the Southern Hemisphere that is playing the actual 18-kilometre long film reel of this.
Yeah, Sydney's IMAX is still repairing or some shit, right?
Yeah, it's been closed down for years, I think, but it's going to reopen very, very soon. So so I think they're getting in there saying, oh, we're the only IMAX screen in the Southern Hemisphere. They're touting it while they can because it's not going to be true for long. But yeah, it's the second largest screen in the world. One of 30 places in the world where you can see the film in this format that Nolan intended. So that's how we got to see it, and that was obviously a standout and why we wanted to go and do that. So I wanted to ask for you, Jade, and I don't know if this is where you were going earlier or not, but just how was your level of immersion, and how much did that contribute to the experience overall for you, the format and where you were sitting and all that kind of thing, and how you took in the screen itself?
I think it definitely does help with immersion. Look, we were in row C, so it was probably like a touch close, but like when the screen's 7 stories high, it does kind of feel like it's starting to wrap around you, and you do feel that little bit more kind of in, like with the kind of film. Something I was talking to some of my mates like when we got out was that like being in the third row and you are a bit close, but you kind of do adjust to it over time, and your eyes do start darting over the screen a bit more. So like you might lose a bit at the start if you're too close. That is, but I thought, like, you eventually adjust and like you are able to capture like the full image, and you do like submerge yourself.
You do, yeah, yeah. It feels weird to say, but it's totally true. You feel like it takes up basically your entire field of vision. So it feels like you're basically, if it's beyond watching a movie, sort of.
Mm.
Yeah, that's totally true. I asked Fitzy this, but I don't think I asked you. How was your neck? How was that going?
That was fine. Yeah.
Yeah, you were good. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I needed some stretches. I'm not gonna lie, and I was one row back from you guys too. I was like, oh, a few times. I was like, oh man,
Just the
nice
degenerate that looks at screens too much. It's just I'm just used to that practice.
Sure. I'm like, Nolan, it's great to be here experiencing your film this way, but I'm not gonna lie, I wouldn't mind being on my couch right now. That's like how I was going with my posture and shit. How much did it add for you, Fitzy? And of course, I don't know if maybe rewatching it, I presume in a regular cinema, maybe change that outlook as well.
Yeah, no, it added a lot. It was awesome. I think like the sound obviously at IMAX is amazing, and it was something I probably picked up on more. But like, especially like the shots of fire and stuff, like explosions, like the slow mo shots were really cool. It was like at one point there was this slow mo shot of fire. I think it might have been in the opening, or it was the Manhattan Project, like the Trinity.
Yeah.
But like I didn't know where to focus, because like the screen was just so big and there was like no point of focus. I was like, oh my god, I'm just like lost right now.
Yeah.
But like in a good way. But no, yeah, the IMAX is really cool.
Yeah, no, that's true. It really, I mean, you guys are spot on. Like it is more physically demanding, at least at first. Like I definitely find myself like, if you've never experienced it, it's very interesting in that you have to you find yourself physically moving to make eye contact with the characters. You have to look over here and then look over there. It's like you're looking at different places on a wall,
I'm too shy to make eye contact with the characters.
You just look at their shoes.
Yeah.
Which would be a whole different part of the goddamn screen you have to actually move to. But yeah, eventually you sort of do just start soaking it in as your brain adjusts. But it is a very interesting adjustment to make for sure. And yeah, those opening shot of like the flame and when the text comes up and stuff is like, holy shit! I feel like I'm in like some sort of theme park here for a second with the way the flames are coming up. It was crazy. And did you guys notice? Because I definitely did, but a lot of extra imperfections in the film as well, like the actual film itself. And I'm not just talking about how grainy the black and white was, but like just all the time, just noticing little bits and bobs pop up.
Yeah, shit tons.
I call them bits and bobs. Is that accurate? What are tears? I don't know what they technically like would be, but
blemishes, imperfections. I don't know.
Blemishes. Yeah. That's good.
I think I was talking to a mate that works there about it. I think. And you're just saying like it just picks that shit up in the transport a bit. If not, from where they are. But like, yeah, all those little imperfections, like you said, yeah.
Yeah, those I loved it. I thought it was awesome. It really just every time I noticed one, just reminded me of like what's happening behind me with the projectionist having to actually reel this shit through right now. It's pretty cool. And I also like to think, because it's the only, I don't think there would be an IMAX theater where this particular film had to travel further. I assume it would have had to have traveled the furthest in the world. And I just like to think they added more imperfections to it, like it just got a bit more messed up during transit. I like to think that anyway.
My mate that works there, he was saying how they've been getting calls all week about like from people from like I don't know, Sydney and Queensland and Perth and all that shit. It's like, oh yeah, I'm coming down to Melbourne, for this or whatever. And they have to say like, if you don't have tickets, do not come, because there are no tickets left. But apparently there's a guy from Singapore that called as well. He's coming from Singapore to Melbourne watch the movie.
And I assume he had tickets?
I think that guy did. But yeah, the people who are calling up nationally, they I don't think they did. But they still like were coming to Melbourne and like, oh, try it out.
Yeah, right. They're getting the 4K laser, bro. They don't even know it. Oh man, that's crazy, dude. That's fantastic. Imagine coming from Singapore. I guess it would be the closest. I guess that sounds weird, but
the fact that Singapore doesn't have an IMAX surprises me. Or does it? And that one was booked out.
Mate, oh yeah, it was too slow, so I have to go to Melbourne. No, maybe they don't. Bit of trivia here. In order for the black and white sections of this film to be shot in the same quality as the rest of it, Kodak had to develop the first ever black and white film stock for IMAX. Nolan doing what he does best here, revolutionizing the camera technology and the film technology and all that sort of thing. That was pretty damn cool. Had you guys did you guys get a lot out of the black and white choice? It's very much, this is probably an easy comparison to make, but it very much reminded me of Memento, just in terms of what it was purpose in the film and stuff. But I really enjoyed, I don't know, something about like seeing those Robert Downey Jr. scenes in black and white on the IMAX screen. Actually, I really did get a lot out of them. I think it was a worthwhile choice in the end.
How were the? Sorry, because it just popped to my mind now to ask this, and it kind of dovetails a bit. But how were those scenes written? Because Oppenheimer's not in those, so are they still in first person?
Excellent point.
Do they shift perspective to someone else, or?
I would imagine. Well, they're definitely like Lewis Strauss focused. So I would imagine they could be written in his first person, maybe, or maybe they're in the third person. I don't know. Just those scenes. That's a very good question, actually. I don't know. I heard it described. Maybe they were just talking loosely, but the actors were saying the whole script was written in the first person.
No, I've seen you can buy the script off Amazon, so I've seen like the last page is definitely in first person, but that's Oppenheimer, I guess.
So I don't know about the Strauss section, so I assume they could be either.
I don't know if you guys also heard this, but like Nolan said that, and I don't entirely understand how this works, but like the color in the film is supposed to be from Oppenheimer's like subjective point of view, and then black and white is from Strauss's point of view, but it's supposed to be like an objective retelling of events. Like that's what Nolan said about the choice, which is weird because like Strauss is like an unreliable narrator. Yeah,
is he?
In his first like sentence, he says that like he only like read the transcript of the trial afterwards of Oppenheimer's hearing, and he didn't have anything to do with it or whatever. But he obviously set it up and stuff like that. So he lies about that, but maybe in other means it's more objective. I don't know.
Oh yeah. Okay, I see. Yeah, that's a good point. I really don't know. Yeah, I guess maybe if it was written in the third person, maybe that's what he's thinking about. I don't know. But yeah,
maybe.
Either way, I think just from a viewer's point of view, I think it's very much just easy to take it as Oppenheimer Strauss. That's sort of just the easiest way to take it in, I think. Which is obviously the main point of it anyway. Speaking of, let's talk about Robert Downey Jr. We can get into all the cast, of which maybe we shouldn't get into all of them because we'll be here all day. But the performances and some of the stuff going on in that regard in the film, I've just got to say, opening up here while we're on Strauss, Robert Downey Jr. blew me away in this movie. He was definitely my favorite performance in the movie, and I don't know, like maybe it was because of how different it felt from him from what I've seen. I loved the physical transformation, the makeup and the hair he had going on, just the look overall, and I just felt the bitterness and the stuck-upness, if you will, just really coming out of him, especially as things were revealed throughout the story as well. So for me, like maybe just out of sheer surprise, and then just also with how fantastic it was as well, he was definitely my standout. How did you feel about Robert Downey Jr. as Lewis Strauss, Jaden?
I didn't particularly care for it, to be honest. I don't think it didn't feel that different to me to something I've seen him in before, probably even Iron Man, because it still had that kind of sense of sarcasm and like desire for control that you kind of see in his character in that he's been playing for 10 years.
Interesting.
I think his voice inflection was the exact same. He didn't really do much to change in my perspective.
Oh, really? I thought he sounded totally different.
Really?
No. Yeah. No?
No.
Fitz, did you think he was doing something with his voice? I thought he was for sure.
His voice? No, like, I think his voice was pretty like standard.
Oh, really? Okay.
But yeah, I did really love his performance. Some of the Iron Man character and this character might just be Robert Downey Jr. in general coming through, But like, nah, he's really great here. He's a great kind of Salieri, like a jealous character.
Oh yeah,
it's really great.
Yeah, 100%. That's exactly what it is. Well, I'm surprised you had that take, Jaden. I thought he was fantastic, dude. That one shot where it's like they're putting together the fact that Strauss set it all up, and it was part of it is because he was jealous of that one, or he was still vindictive for that one court hearing where Oppenheimer threw him under the bus. They do that one shot where Robert Downey Jr. is just sort of sitting there with his hands in his lap, and as he's sort of just quietly watching Oppenheimer tear him apart. And you just see, I just saw in his eyes, man, this guy wants to kill this guy, but he's just like very quietly sitting there. That really struck me in that particular shot. Now that we've seen everyone's roles, though, is this actually, it was in contention, actually the most stacked cast of all time? What's its competition? Because I feel like we've talked about this before.
Yeah, I don't know, like French Dispatch or something maybe might rival it, but
Wes Anderson stuff, yeah.
yeah, Wes Anderson in general, I guess. But I
Yeah.
don't. Yeah, even just for an Nolan film, it's just pretty amazing. Yeah.
Everyone was someone, even like very recognizable faces like Jack Quaid, for example, Fitzy's favorite actor. When he popped up, like he didn't have, he wasn't in the film a lot.
No.
Neither was Rami Malek, and these are very recognizable faces. They just pop up for like a scene or two. Casey Affleck was only in that one scene, I believe. I don't think he was in it again.
Yeah.
And of course, Gary Oldman as President Truman was only in that one scene. So Jaden didn't recognize him at all. Is that correct?
Yeah, I was like, oh, this Truman guy's pretty good, and I was
like, that's great. And so, but Fitzy, did you recognize him because you were looking for him? Is that right?
Oh yeah, like I already saw in the cast that he played him, and
that's
I heard him on, like I heard the voice on the radio. I was like, oh, is this going to be his voice? So I was still waiting for like that scene, and I was glad it happened. Yeah.
Right. It's so weird. Maybe to me, I don't know. Maybe I don't know if you guys have seen Darkest Hour, but when he plays Churchill in that movie, I can't see him at all.
Mm.
And maybe it's a point of comparison that I don't know, but I saw Gary Oldman right away when I saw this guy. Like I knew it was just clearly Gary Oldman to me. So I don't know what's going on there. It's just really, I think that's really interesting. But when he popped up, that was of course really, really cool. Quick bit of trivia about that though. The Harry S. Truman line, "Don't you ever bring that crybaby back here ever again," which, by the way, when he said that in the movie, I was kind of like, that feels a bit fake. That feels a bit like Nolan added that. Is historically factual. Truman did actually say this to his staff after meeting Oppenheimer. So I was like, oh, wow, okay, well, no, fair play. That's fair. And apparently that particular scene there when Oppenheimer says he has blood, feels like he has blood on his hands, is also a spot-on quote, apparently, as well.
Oh.
I appreciate that because sometimes, I don't know, some of these lines can sometimes, to me, when I see them in like something that's meant to be based on a true story, sometimes they can feel a bit like manufactured to me, or like just someone wrote it, but clearly historical evidence to back these up, so that's awesome. Should we get Cillian Murphy? Should we give him his flowers? Give him his awards, the Cinema Effect Awards. How did you feel he did, Jane? Do you want to give him a performance review as sort of his first time a leading man in a major motion picture?
Oh.
Is this his what?
What?
First time leading man. He's in plenty of films.
28 days later.
Oh, true. Any others?
Probably not.
This felt like a big step in my opinion. I haven't seen 28 Days Later, so that's on me. But this feels like dude, he's leading this cast. He is this movie. So that's why I said it. But anyway, how'd you feel about him?
Yeah, that was pretty good. I can only speak to the performance so much because I don't know what Oppenheimer's actual mannerisms were like, but it was very convincing. I like his kind of gaunt look. That I thought he always has that, but apparently he picked it up for the role. I guess he kind of has like the sucked in cheekbones,
Yeah.
I don't know. He did play like a tortured artist really well.
Yeah, I mean, Cillian Murphy's fantastic, so I really, really enjoyed. I was very much, as I said, immersed in the guy's journey, and he carried that very well. I think the performance, I think it'll take some rewatches for me to like really love it, because I think just on the first watch, the main parts that stuck out to me the most, outside of just being immersed and enjoying it, was like some of the more traumatic stuff he gets into in the third hour, when he like really starts to feel has these sort of episodes about clearly feeling guilty about all the people he's killed and stuff. Like when you get that scene when he's giving the speech, and how he's like trying to struggle to get through that while sort of trying to pose to the crowd at the same time, and you get sort of the internal experience of him. Like I thought that was on a first watch my favorite acting part of him in the film. I really, really thought that was quite exceptional. And then of course he was great throughout the rest of it. Fitzy, did you have any standout Cillian Murphy moments or any other thoughts?
Yeah, like I feel like he portrayed this like distant kind of character really well. because he's kind of hard to
Yes.
understand throughout, even when you're getting those like emotional close-ups where you're seeing to his soul through his amazing eyes. Yeah, he plays this like kind of weird guy really well, and he has some iconic shots, I guess, iconic close-ups. Yeah.
Sure. How do you feel about Oppenheimer as a man through, of course, through the lens of the film? I was going to ask, because obviously he's a walking contradiction in some ways, and in simplest terms, I was going to ask, do you feel walking away from the film like he is a man worthy of celebration, or kind of an asshole, to put it to the two extremes? Then you also put it as like, oh, he's kind of a weird guy, which is also kind of true. There's a lot going on there, but like, what was your feelings towards the character? I don't know if you had a lot of familiarity with the guy before, but or if that changed, or just how do you feel about this human being and how you judged him after watching?
Considering he was such an instrumental part of the atom bomb, I never felt the movie never made me feel like he was like a terrible person or anything. And like he goes through the hearing process, and it's kind of characterized as a some other review. I'm stealing their words. Uses it as like said it's like a willful atonement, which
Yeah.
makes, like in the movie, Kitty says, "Don't think this is going to make people forgive you," but like I think it does a bit. It does make him seem like more, you empathize with him a bit more,
Yeah.
because he just gets like railed in the in that little room.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
it's very kind of neutral, I guess. I never feel that he's like a terrible person, but
Yeah, I agree. I think it is. I think it is mostly neutral. I don't think the film's trying to clearly make you feel a certain way about him. Although I do agree. If any way, I think it leans more positive towards him. Just in how, I mean, and it sort of makes sense inherently if you're going to spend 3 hours focusing on this man's all of his flaws and all every single little thing about him, and particularly when it's framed through, like you said, that kangaroo court hearing, when it's framed through that, which is clearly an injustice. Whichever way you look at it, when you frame it through that way, it's sort of skews a bit more positive, sort of inherently. Not to say that it comes out with a grandiose comment of like, oh yeah, this guy was incredible, it was amazing, or anything necessarily that blatant. But yeah, that's sort of how I read it. Although there is a lot of negative stuff to look at too. Like, I was obviously aware of his scientific achievements and stuff, but the film doesn't shy away from his ego and from obviously his faults in, he was clearly blinded by ambition in developing this weapon in the first place. And I think there's a fair argument to make that was, I mean, he obviously regretted it later, there's no doubt about that, but there's an argument to make that it was a really poor decision in the first place that he should have seen coming. I think you can make that argument. And also the whole element of him being a womanizer was something I didn't really expect. I wasn't aware of that at all. So there are definitely lots of sprinkles of flaws and cons in there as well, if you want to look at it that way. But how do you weigh it up, Jaden?
I think it ultimately like felt like way too positive on a
Okay.
man that created a bomb that killed 200,000.
Mm,
But I guess that does come with the like you talk about how I was blinded by science, and I do love the Prometheus thing, and it goes back to Frankenstein in Year 12 and learning about how Frankenstein was blinded by and driven by that. Like it is just really like like looking back at Frankenstein as what we were studying was that it was written as a warning of unchecked ambition, and then
mm,
70 years later you have this man with unchecked ambition killing a couple 100,000 and changing the course of the world.
yep.
So I love that. I love that a lot. But still, with that in mind, I do think they painted him in too much of a positive light. Partially through the kangaroo court, yeah, but also just I think there's a lot of retroactive, not there's a lot of now looking back you can make a positive, but there's three perspectives in history. There's the current one, and that tends to be the biased one way. Then there's there's the second one that tends to flip the bias the complete other way, and then there's the third one, which is trying to negate biases but still ends up somewhere. This very much feels like the third one, but it feels like it's leaning too positive.
Yeah. Okay. Do you feel like the ending of the film sort of leaves you in that kind of a place with him? Because I do think, and I'm sorry, I'm just mean in terms of it feels like the big sort of just plot focus sort of win for him at the end of the film is the fact that the scientists stand up for him, and I don't. He doesn't get his security clearance back right then, I don't think. But
No.
but he's sort of the moral standing of we'll say of his public figure is significantly improved by the end of the film chronologically. That's sort of where we end up with him. Do you feel like that's maybe where it is? Because that's sort of more rooted in the. I guess that particular conflict is more rooted in the idea of he was unfairly accused of being a communist and put on trial for completely political reasons, as opposed to while that sort of becomes the focus of the events of the story at the end, as opposed to the fact he killed 200,000 people. You know what I mean? Not to say that it brushes that, not to say that it ignores that by any means, but it sort of doesn't. I don't think it doesn't become the main impact by the end, I would argue.
Yeah. It just does feel like a super Western perspective of the man. But, like, at the same time, like, in saying that, like, you look at the East and it does some pretty fucking horrible shit too. So, I mean, like, you know, it's a complicated time that they're portraying in what they were trying to convey. I don't think they were neutral enough.
Like, I'd argue, like, when I saw the trailer, like, I had no idea that Rob Downey Jr. was going to be, like, the second kind of main character of the film. And there was a second trailer where, at the end of it, Straws seems like a confrontation kind of character. I mean, I guess he is in a way, but, you know, he's the villain of the film. And I think him being the villain and him, like, playing this venomous kind of role, like, negates, you know, some of the negativity from Oppenheimer, I guess, because it just pits him against him, which, right. Maybe that factored into it.
Yeah, I think it does. I think that's right. Who else? Who else do we have here? Florence Pugh. She got to be in the first Nolan sex scene, right? Was that the first one? I know there's Bruce and Anne Hathaway in The Dark Knight. In The Dark Knight Rises, like that's not much.
Insomnia didn't have anything to do with it.
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
There wasn't even like a relationship.
Yeah, true. Yeah, no, we got some Nolan titties in this one, so that was exciting. That's our revelation.
Oh, IMAX.
Was that in 143? I didn't take enough notice. I liked Emily Blunt's accent. Matt Damon's always great.
I mean, Josh Hartnett was great. The experimenting guy.
Who was he? Because I must admit, this is why I need subtitles on rewatch, just to keep track of people's names better and like who is who exactly.
He's just the guy next door, experimenter guy. He like gets him in on the bomb action. The more conservative guy that doesn't like the politics in the uni, you know.
Oh, so is he like his boss at the uni?
No, he was the one next door. He was the one that was running practical sciences while Oppenheimer was doing theoretical shit.
Gotcha. Yeah, I remember him. He was cool. I liked Kenneth Branagh popping up. That was fun.
Yeah.
I felt like he was doing his Tenet accent, but I don't know.
Something I was saying to Spooky afterwards is just it just feels so surreal having these iconic names in science introduced like characters in the Avengers, you know. It's like, oh, we need to get Bohr out of Amsterdam, and you know, it's like we've delivered him for you, and you know, and then you know, they name drop everyone else along the way and whoever else was there. And obviously this relates to Spooky way more now because obviously he would continue to study that, but like even occupying that space for a bit back in high school, and now seeing it reflected on screen is crazy, and it just feels nuts, and it's awesome.
So I'm sure Spooky did you recognize like all of the names as they were coming up? Because I'm obviously
a lot of them, especially during his like his tour of Europe when he's still studying and stuff like that. A lot of those ones, yeah.
We can't make contact with X and Y because you know it really does feel like the Avengers assembling. That's true. Why don't we talk about what is meant to be, I think, the showstopper of the film? The big practical effect, the one everyone wants to sort of talk about, I think, and that's the Trinity test sequence. What was the experience like? Did it live up to the tension and the anticipation that I feel like it definitely has in some ways inherently just based on what it is, but of course has to be elevated by Nolan's execution, and I thought you might have taken note of the sound as well as a major factor in it. So, but how did you react to the whole thing?
Yeah, super rewarding in being, you know, your kind of relief from what you were building to. And I think it's the greatest choice to kind of demonstrate the effects and the weight of it without glorifying the deaths of the Japanese people, which is interesting because I've seen a lot of people saying, like you made this movie about Oppenheimer and you don't even have the Japanese people in there, and it's like it's I think it's far more respectful to avoid showing their obliteration.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that the Trinity bomb drop, but even the things leading up to it, every time they go down to the site and there's the storm that's picking up and there's the laying of it and all, like yeah, I think it definitely is probably like one of the probably like the most exciting kind of by numbers sequence. Like
Yeah.
obviously there's other like kind of tense shit throughout the film, but like in terms of like where you get your quote unquote action from the movie, it is that kind of process.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I was quite tense in the scene. That guy, I don't know why. Like I felt I feel like the option, the choice to have that guy standing there. I didn't understand anything he was doing, but like that guy who had to press the button if the dial hit a certain below zero or whatever it was, and he was like sweating his ass off standing there with the finger on the button. That was like added 50% of the tension for me. I was like, oh my god, I don't want to be that guy. And then yeah, like the delay in the sound was phenomenal. How silent it all went and how the screen went totally wide. That was all of that was pretty wild. Although I was sort of curious as to the nature of like the scientific element of the sound, and I presume it's all realistic, but I just didn't like what causes such a delay in sound.
No, I think that delay was actually no, probably not. No, so obviously light is faster than sound. I don't know if it's that extreme. Probably absolutely isn't. But like light is faster than sound, so you will see the explosion before you hear it and feel it.
Right.
But yeah, I think it was hammed up a bit.
Oh, okay. For just okay, I get it. For just tension and whatever.
Well, I think you have to remember that, like, they're 20 miles away or whatever it is.
True.
So it could be realistic, but also there's like slow-mo in between. So I feel like it's real, but they just have extended time with the slow-mo or whatever.
Understood. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Cool. And so that they were. Okay, I feel like maybe some of the scale of this was going over my head a little bit. They were 20 miles away from that explosion?
I think so. I think they said something like that.
Did they use
miles?
One of the sites was. Yeah.
Okay.
I think they used miles. I don't know. Looking American.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, exactly. Probably. Don't understand miles at all. Okay, interesting. I didn't really compute for me. So maybe that'll probably improve it on a rewatch. Yeah, that was really cool. I know, obviously, there was so much talk about beforehand of how it was a practical explosion, and Nolan's been very careful as to not. He hasn't really wanted to explicitly say how they did it, but it was a mix of an actual explosion was on set, but then they've gone and photographed other stuff and added it in. As far as I can tell, that's the most I've been able to sort of glean from what he said so far.
Oh yeah, no, like it's just amazing how like you know exactly what's going to happen, but
yeah, right.
I don't think there's like a threat to life or anything implied in that scene. So it's just like, is it going to work or not? Is this project going to be successful? So
right.
The fact that it's built off that is really impressive. Yeah,
that's true. So you weren't personally, you weren't like, oh man, what if this is an alternate history take where it actually destroys the universe?
Yeah. What if it ignites the atmosphere? Yeah.
Damn, that was crazy. Dude, when they, well, I feel like it was probably in the trailers because it feels like such a trailer line. But not having seen anything, like when Matt Damon says there's a close to 0% chance or whatever it is, and he's like close to zero. I was like, that was really cool. That hit me.
That was a trailer. That was a trailer line.
It feels like it would be. Yeah. Another trailer line would definitely have to be. This is the most important shit in the history of the world.
That was
Jan, I want to ask what your experience with the editing and the structure of the film was. It's Nolan, so of course this shit wasn't going to be chronological. He loves playing with that shit. But how did you feel about the experience of going through the film in that non-chronological structure and the editing overall, and if it came together or if it was clunky for you or anything like that?
I think it was probably like one of the most proficient parts of the film, really. I think like the ability to tell like a seamless story, but not only like through like the two primary timelines, but also there's the flashes. Actually, is the start of the film purely his time in Europe, or does it? No, oh no, because it starts with the trial. Yeah. No, it's like even being able to handle the trial and then going back and forth between the trial, the other trial, and then his actual like creation of the bomb. All super seamless stuff in my opinion. And then this is what third time with Jennifer Lamb.
I think it's his second. I think it was just Tenet before.
Yeah. I think she's done fantastic again. Like really.
Yeah, totally. Oh my god, dude, I can't. I think we talked about it at the time, but imagine editing Tenet. Like what a task. No, she does a great job here. I totally agree. I think it's a Nolan trademark, of course, but the cross cutting is just phenomenal in this movie. When we talked about it in The Prestige as well as Tenet, but I don't know. The editing in this film is so good because even though I was finding my footing on the chronology of events as the film went on, like even as I walked out, like I totally understood the events and their significance of, without, oh my god, I guess I'm just going to say it. I felt it. I didn't have to think of it. You know what I mean? Like you just, the Nolan quote, you just feel it. It just works. It just plays as it is. Even though I still sort of walking out had like, well, hang on, was that before then? Or I don't really know, but it doesn't matter. You know, that's sort of the genius of it. And that's why it feels so seamless and it works. And I don't feel like I'm being jolted all over the place as an audience member, you know. And that's especially impressive this time because it covers decades and looks at the same events in lots of different ways and from lots of different angles at different times. Some of which sometimes the film looks at the same event from black and white and color, and that means a whole different thing. You know, that provides a whole different layer to it. That was pretty cool. And I don't know, I just find it always in Nolan's films, definitely talked about it in Tenet. It's just so satisfying to watch characters like talk about a certain moment or event in their lives and have it like flash on the screen for a couple of seconds. You know he does this because it connects the threads of the film together as you realize, oh, now I get what was happening in that earlier scene, or now I get why I was shown that 2-second clip briefly earlier. It all starts, the way it starts coming together. It's just so, I just find it really satisfying when like something flashes up and you're like, oh, right. I guess in a way it's sort of like you could argue it's like spelling it out to you like your almost stupid way. Maybe you could argue that, but I don't think I don't feel that way at all. Like it really does feel quite satisfying. Not to mention the pacing in terms of how exciting the film feels overall, I think, because for a dialogue-driven drama, there's a lot. This film is just entirely driven by its talking, but like in the third hour, there's a few more moments of breath, but in the first 2 hours, definitely before the Trinity test sequence, like I feel like there's so few moments where the film stops. Like it's just constant talking, constant moving. It really uses all of its runtime and keeps itself exciting. So that wasn't an issue for me at all. How do you feel about the pacing or the editing, Fitzy?
Yeah, it was really quick. It felt like, I don't know, Nolan's like fastest film, maybe like for like the momentum, which is like the fastest.
Probably, yeah.
But yeah, it just like sustains it somehow for 3 hours, which is awesome. Yeah, I mean, like the music, which factors into that, which is awesome by itself.
Yeah, you know what's funny? Yeah, that's true. It probably feels like Nolan's fastest film, maybe because like the scenes, like the dialogue-driven scenes and plot-driven scenes in the Dark Knight trilogy, probably have similar pacing when they're together, but because they're broken up by different action pieces throughout the whole thing, like it probably doesn't. It feels like Oppenheimer's first 2 hours is like the Dark Knight dialogue sequences, but like it's only them though. You know, that's sort of how I felt about it.
Okay.
Because I feel like the Dark Knight has like its dialogue moves really quickly as well from scene to scene. I think so. But you mentioned the score. How do you feel about that, especially on a rewatch? Because I was impressed with it, but I haven't had a chance to re-listen, and I want to sort of just re-listen when I watch the film next. So it was one of those things I don't think I'm definitely haven't had the chance to fully appreciate quite yet.
Yeah. Well, like I feel like I overdosed on this movie. Like I listened to the score a bunch of times and I rewatched it. So by Wednesday I was kind of sick of this film already. But no, like
without Saturday,
the score is pretty fantastic. Like there's some, I don't know, like I love Strauss's theme, Lily Shoe Salesman, and they reuse that theme like when he's on the Manhattan Project and like that shot where he's like they're walking across the football field or whatever, and it's like I don't know, they're parallel editing or cross cutting, as you said, between that and the court hearing. And like the music just blares as they walk across. I don't know the field. That was a moment that stuck with me. But yeah, the score's fantastic. Yeah.
Awesome. I think I'll definitely get where you are. I need to experience. I need to consume it more. I need to do my own overdose session on it. Jaden, how do you feel about Ludwig's outing? Do you feel like is it going to take maybe a rewatch or two for you? Because
Probably, yeah.
Because like Tenet is one of my favorite scores of all time, but I don't. I just can't remember. I can't put myself back in the spot I was after I just watched it once. Where I can't. I think I couldn't tell you what I felt about it the first time. You know what I mean? I can tell you how I feel very passionately about it now, having seen the film 3 times and listened to the score like 5 times. You know, so I just can't. I don't remember exactly where I was. So I'm creating this time capsule for myself now for this film.
I definitely remember coming out of Tenet and loving the score straight away because it's just kind of like bleeding and much more noticeable kind of like pulse. Whereas this one,
oh yeah,
probably not. It's not subtle, I don't think, but like I think it takes a bit of a backseat. Apart from its kind of dramatic swells.
Sure.
Whereas I feel like the Tenet score is always present.
The Tenet, yeah, absolutely. It's hard to compare like any regular movie score to the Tenet score. It's like it's a beast, you know. Not that definitely every movie shouldn't be like that, you know. I want to ask you guys, walking out of the cinema, what was sort of the main feeling or idea that really stuck with you from the experience that first time? Because the ending feels quite like the very ending feels quite impactful. It feels like some of the imagery is phenomenal. I want to touch on some of that, but what sort of emotions did you leave walking out beyond sort of just, and I'm not talking about like beyond just, you know, opinions on the character, which we talked about a little bit, but like the emotional experience of it. Like what was the first thing you wanted to say or was on your mind right as you walked out?
It made me want to be a better academic.
Really?
Yep, I felt bad looking at them, especially because the architects were included in like the discussion of like, you know, oh, we got physicists, mathematicians, engineers, and architects, and I was like, oh shit. So I should be, I should be pretty well read by this stage, I guess.
You're being spoken to.
So yeah, it's made me want to be a better academic. Then there was a few other things during the week that kind of reinforced that, and I was like, wow, this is all just a great coincidence. So
wow,
that's the main feeling it gave me.
Sure. What about you, Fitzy? I wasn't expecting that, but that's cool.
I don't know. I don't know if the Doomsday ending is like it's great, but I don't think I didn't feel that. I guess it wasn't like I came out like depressed and like, you know, shaking in my boots or anything. Like I came with questions. I was kind of thinking about stuff, but I think I like half got there. Like I think I half ended with where the film wanted me to end emotionally. So
where do you think that is?
Like reflective, I guess. Like I keep wanting to think about the film throughout the week. So yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. When you say you had questions, do you mean like
I just
moral
had, like,
questions, or do you mean
literal-
just like actual?
I had like literal questions, like logistic.
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah.
I did too, and I'll ask one soon. Yeah, I think the closing moments were great. It really drove home for me. The feeling was like the magnitude of it. Like it really drove home the scale of the issues that this man had to deal with and his impact on the world. I definitely didn't feel depressed. Honestly, like I think I saw 1 or 2 people say that. I don't remember, but I didn't feel depressed. I didn't feel, you know, like hopeful or not hopeful. I didn't really feel any which way in that regard, but I just felt like I'd seen something important, you know, or that I'd experienced a tale that was significant in some way. And the events and his choices and how big of a deal they were, truly, you know, and like I said, not necessarily for the better or the worse, but I just wanted to, it's sort of just, wow, I walked out like, wow, that felt significant. Now I want to think about it more deeply to understand like how I actually feel about it.
Yeah,
you know?
I think that's how I felt, yeah.
Yeah. And a part of that was like that shot, that second last shot of the fire consuming the world was really striking. You know, while Oppenheimer didn't destroy the world in that moment, you know, he did change it forever. So in that way, and I think, does Einstein say that to him? I can't remember. Someone says that to him.
No, he didn't he say to Einstein that, remember how you know, with those calculations I said we could destroy the world or whatever, or we could change the world. And he goes, I fear we have.
Right.
And then,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
then, and then Einstein walks away all sad, and that's why Strauss gets sad.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, so there's no doubt. I mean, there's no doubt they're right about that. They did change the world forever, but so in a way, like even though like they potentially may end up destroying the world, it hasn't happened yet. And if you want to end up, let's say in 100 years, the world does actually end up get blown up by nuclear weapons. Whether you want to go back and pin that on Oppenheimer, there'll be no one left to do it. But if aliens want to go back and pin that on Oppenheimer, I guess that's up to them. But more so, like the image of the fire consuming the world was more like, I didn't really take it literally as like, oh my god, he's destroyed the world or anything. I took it as like that's the scale of the project and of the impact he's had on science and the impact he's had on the moral dilemmas he's created by just bringing the weapon into existence. That's sort of it visualized is sort of how I took it. So that was quite striking. I liked that a lot. And the fact that seeing that particular shot and knowing there's no visual effects shots in the film, which is still mind-blowing, by the way.
There's visual effects, but there's no CG.
Visual effects are CG, right?
Yeah, but like there's still there is a visual effects team and there is visual effects contribution. But
okay, maybe I'm mixing up my terminology.
It's just that I'm not sure how he's wanted to use, because I saw some visual effects artists got very pissed off that he's like pushing this lie that there's no CG. But I think he's distinguishing a difference between CG and then what the other visual effects artists did.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. Is in like there's no computer generated imagery. There's no animation in it.
Yeah, I think that probably might be what he's more referring to. If you go on IMDb and you scroll all the way down to the bottom, there is like the VFX producers at least are there, but not the full team.
Gotcha. Yeah. Okay, sure. So I've always understood the distinction that special effects are, but my simplistic definitions have always been special effects are practical effects and visual effects are computer effects. That's sort of, and I think that is maybe broadly true, but yeah, okay, maybe in that, because that is true. I never, every time he spoke, it was always, he specifically said no CGI is what he said. So that is maybe slightly different in some ways. That makes sense. But anyway, the fact that my point still stands. The fact that Earth being on fire wasn't just like something someone whipped up in Cinema 4D. You know what I mean? That was pretty cool. I've got no idea how they did that, but that was awesome. I thought that was very cool. And Jane was mentioned walking out of all the shots of the, what are they called, protons and all the waves and whatever that sort of shit is at the start, towards the start being achieved. With aperture and all these in-camera techniques and stuff. That's all very cool as well. But I guess on the topic, we can talk a little bit about Hoyte van Hoytema. I always feel so scared saying his name.
Wait, what was it?
Hoyte van Hoytema?
Yeah, okay.
I think that's right.
I think so.
Maybe I meant to say it with a bit more flair or something. I don't know.
Doesn't he just call him Hoyter? Just call him Hoyter.
Yeah, just call him Hoyter.
Yeah.
He's a friend of the show, so it's fine. What struck you about his work in the film, Vitzi?
Yeah, like the film's pretty colourful, I guess. Like it felt less grey than other Nolan films. I don't know, like I don't know if I'd call it better than his other stuff, but like I guess there's a cool like focus on nature and stuff. There's a lot of close-up shots in the film which are like really just, I think PTA was talking to the director of Beale Street, like on Beale Street Kentucky, he's talking about his use of close-ups, how they like, sing into their eyes like so well. And like this is like a perfect use of that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know, in general it's just really, really good. Yeah.
The Beale Street guy is Moonlight guy as well, right?
Barry
Jenkins, yeah.
Yeah. That's a great point about the close-ups, because I remember those close-ups from Moonlight.
Yeah, that's what like he was talking about.
No, that's true. The close-ups are a standout for sure. Anyone just watching it will definitely notice that. And I think that they're probably like a very decent sized percentage of the reason that I felt that the subjective element really came through from the script to the screen is through those photography choices, I think. And yeah, no, the quality of the work's obviously exceptional. But weirdly, another another like standout like choice to me, probably just because of the size of the screen we were watching it on, but I really liked the blocking of the hearing scenes. That little like, I don't know, classroom they were sitting in.
Mm.
The way that there's always someone, whether Oppenheimer himself or the people he's talking about in his what is it like in his, I want to say his
Testimony? I don't know.
his testimony. That's exactly what I was looking for. Thank you. The way that there's always someone sitting in that left corner of the screen, and like on the IMAX screen, like you feel their presence so much more. Where you like you sort of can physically move to see them sitting there, and it's like Emily Blunt sitting there like staring at you, and it's like that was kind of scary in its own way, and added a little tinge of anxiety to the testimony he was giving as well. So I thought I just really liked that choice as well. Maybe when I watch it on a smaller screen, it won't mean as much, but I thought it was quite striking. I liked it.
Did we gain much from the extra 40% of screen, like visually, like other than like immersion and feel? Like, was there anything actually additional? Like, was there any information?
No, but I think that's really all it ever is.
Yeah,
though, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I think, yeah, I see what you mean, but I don't know. Like, did I get a lot extra out of seeing like, look at that extra 20% of the cockpit in June? You know what I mean? Like, I never really felt that way about June, which is the only other film I've seen in the format. So, yeah. Not really. I mean, yeah, it's also worth noting that the film is very indoorsy. It feels like it's sort of like, like the Trinity test and stuff, but so much of it is inside that, when you do get the brief few shots of like the New Mexico, like the vistas there, you get like a couple IMAX shots of that. Those really stand out because there's so few of them. And those are probably the only times you could argue there was something. I think so anyway.
Yeah. Well, I heard someone like talking about the like, verticality of the film, like especially with like the Trinity secrets and stuff. But like the court scenes, I feel like the black and white hearing with straws is like really impressive horizontally because you see the whole board of like judges or whatever.
Yeah.
But then other things are like impressive vertically. Like in the small room, it's mainly like close-ups of Oppenheimer's skinny tall body or whatever. And then obviously the bomb stuff is vertically impressive. So it just kind of depends on what you're looking at, I guess.
Yeah, true. That's very true. I think I've got an opinion, but I want to ask how you guys felt about one aspect of the ending, and that is the choice to have the brief flash forward to Oppenheimer getting his award or his medal or whatever it was for his service some years in the future from when he's talking to Einstein in that moment, and when Einstein sort of reminds him that in the end they'll all come back around on you and they'll praise you and they'll give you your flowers or whatever, but it'll be for them, is what he says. And I was just curious as to what you think Einstein is talking about there, and is it a hopeful or a somber sort of sentiment overall that he's giving to the character at that point?
What's Benny Safdie's character's name? Like Strasser or something?
Oh, I can't remember.
Yeah. Oh, I think he's talking about him mainly there. Like, I think it's kind of a somber note, right? Yeah, like he's kind of saying that the people who were running with you on these bad decisions can feel better now because you're also like vindicated, or I guess something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think similar lines. I was thinking like the people that put you down in the first place and created this whole dilemma for you, which that's actually another aspect of the film that like I don't think watching it I didn't quite understand the significance of why the security clearance was so important, because by the time like he gets the hearing concludes and he gets his security clearance revoked, I was sort of kind of like, why? I didn't quite understand why he should care that because I was thinking like, I don't know, is he still doing anything that would require that at that point? But my understanding, I listened to a historical podcast about the time after, and my understanding of it loosely, and you guys jump in if you think I'm not quite right, but my understanding of it is that it's just essentially means that it's essentially him getting cancelled in his time, where like he lost his career and potential, and his public standing was essentially ruined. as a result of it, and he would have struggled to find, and continue his work and be listened to seriously in a public forum is sort of the way I ended up taking it afterwards.
Yeah, well, that's just kind of an after effect. But I think the main thing is that he can't be a part of the AEC board anymore. He can't have any influence over nuclear opinion.
So he can't continue which is obviously what Strauss wants. He can't continue his endorsement for the
like arms
restrictions on
talks and-
nuclear.
Yeah.
Okay.
He can't
That
have any
makes-
more
that makes
influence in
sense.
that circle anymore because he's not, cleared to be part of that group.
Yes, he's basically shunned by everyone important. Okay, that makes
Yeah.
sense. Okay, so that's cool. I think I didn't quite grasp that in the moment. So then tying that back to the end, I guess it is the idea that like these are the same people that took it all away from you, and they're going to give it all back to you, but it's kind of hollow and it's kind of
like symbolically, yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of bullshit. They're just they're doing it for them as in like they're just doing it to make themselves feel better now, and like at the end of the day, they did what they did to you. It's not really they're not that it is what it is. It's done. Like you can't really take that back anymore.
Yeah. Everything like with the government in this film is really well done. Like especially after Trinity, like straight away they just take the bombs away, and then the meeting with President Truman is really like chilling kind of, and then when the group is like the defense group or whatever is like deciding where they're gonna actually plant the bombs, and then the main guy's like, oh, not Kyoto because me and my wife like honeymoon there. That stuff was really chilling, just in terms of like the government just taking it all away straight away and seizing control.
Yes. Yes, great point. That particular scene, that was a standout scene for me because, I mean, that particular line you talk about where you wanted to take out Kyoto was that elicited some laughs in our area, and it was funny, but like I don't know how I knew that was a fact though. Like I had known in the past that was true. That happened.
It was of cultural significance. I'm not sure. Like maybe they did a honeymoon there really, but like I think it does have like a shit ton of World Heritage. I don't know if they had World Heritage sites back then, but like it did. They did genuinely recognize like its cultural significance.
Yeah, 100%. But I know it as a historical fact. Again, I wasn't there obviously, but that guy said that he didn't want to do it because his wife and he honeymooned there. Like that, I have known that in my mind for like years. I don't know why. Came up in some point, I guess. So like the fact I knew that was real was also another thing where like maybe I would have doubted it if I didn't already know it. So that was pretty crazy. That was pretty wild. Another sort of question I had was an aspect of the Strauss character in the film is that Einstein dislikes him and shuns him on that scene. Like go back to that scene like 5 times where Einstein just walks past him and doesn't give a shit. And the fact that this really bothers Strauss deeply. And my question was just straight up like, because Strauss wanted to know what Einstein told Oppenheimer to put them against each other or something. I don't think, correct me if I'm wrong, Einstein said anything to Oppenheimer that was even relevant to Strauss or that changed that perspective at all.
No.
So did Einstein already dislike Strauss long before the lake scene anyway, and Strauss is just inventing this, or did it sort of have nothing to do with that, and the scientists were all sort of just all to stick together anyway against the commission, and that's sort of always just been the thing.
Like in that scene, obviously, is where Oppenheimer tells Einstein about the ramifications or whatever, and I think because Einstein had previously dealt with that in his life because he created the equations that started, quantum mechanics and stuff, and he was also like persecuted for that kind of. So I think he's just reflecting on that, and it's kind of somewhat because of that, and it's supposed to be not actually related to Strauss, but Strauss thinks it is, I guess. I kind of like how the movie gets hijacked by Strauss's kind of, feelings or whatever. He's like jealousy.
Yeah. Okay. So it was more like the conversation sort of just reminded Einstein of like how he's been wronged in the past by these same people, the same way Oppenheimer is now.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
Sure, that makes sense. a little bit sort of, I guess, sort of slightly going back to the decision to nuke that scene where they choose to nuke Hiroshima and Nagasaki. I had some historical and possibly some questions and possible historical implications to ask you guys, and to in terms of choosing where to drop the bombs and stuff. Jaden, I want your historical opinion on some of this stuff. One point that's brought up, because for me, an interesting moral conundrum in the film is, and of course in history, is do you drop the bomb? Where do you drop the bomb? You know, how do you use the bomb? All that sort of stuff. And one important sort of aspect that's brought up in that meeting of it is that the Japanese were never going to surrender, and the only other way was a full-scale invasion of the country. Do you think that's true? You know, were they? Because that was my main question of, if that guy's right, like if that actually has some basis, then I can see the argument. But it's also just this one dude saying it, so I don't know if that has any actual validity in historical circles or anything like that.
I can't really speak to the entire like validity of it, but like there was very much an attitude of, you know, never back down, never give up. Like there's stories about like some like Japanese soldiers that got like stranded on islands, like, you know, in like the Vietnam, like Philippines, Malaysia area, who were never told that the war ended, and they just kept on fighting until they got picked up by like some other people. It's like there is that very fighting spirit, and very much a fighting spirit. But I think the thing is, they bombed the shit out of Tokyo. Like the fire bombings of Tokyo killed more than the atom bombs did. So I guess it kind of was necessary to show that there is a destructive power, probably. But I don't know what stage they were really at the war then either. Like I don't know if Japan would surrender. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like the things I bring up in that meeting of, you know, drop it on a military target, tell the people to get out, you know, whatever. Like something had to be done to change, because no, at the end of the day, you can't justify the mass murder of that many people on that scale, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you know, they're talking about, oh, there's not a target big enough that's outside of a civilian area. Like that's poor, you know. That's poor, man.
It is poor. Oh, yeah, I don't know. It's like, but then I just think about that full invasion of Japan, you know, and what that would have meant.
You see it a bit in Hacksaw Ridge, because Hacksaw Ridge shows the Pacific theater of war, and you see how much of a nightmare that is, climbing the cliff and then taking a couple feet a day.
So to think about how long that could have taken and how painful it would have been, and you know, you wouldn't even know what the result of that would have ended up being, you know, and how many people would have continued to die and stuff. So, you know, I guess in that way, like there is an argument to say that in the short term, it was actually like quite a Fitzy, what's the philosophical term again, where it's like you minimize casualties, and that's
utilitarian.
Yes, it feels like quite a utilitarian sort of perspective potentially to drop the bomb in that sense. But then, of course, there's the other huge element of, if the bomb, if it was going to be built anyway, eventually at some point by someone, which it seemed like that was inevitable as well, you know, maybe we should be glad that the only way it's ever been used so far in human history is to minimize casualties and end one war. You know what I mean? That's actually, if you look at it that way, it's actually got a pretty good track record.
What do you mean? They fucking created Godzilla. That's pretty devastating.
Yeah, well, right. Oh, is that actually canon? Is that like always the origin story of Godzilla?
Nuclear radiation of some kind. But yeah, I think it is, like, yeah.
Oh, okay, I didn't know that.
But Godzilla did emerge from like nuclear fears from the Japanese perspective.
Oh, okay.
Like the West created the atom, the you know, the atomic family, and you know, your white picket fences. The Japanese created Godzilla.
Gotcha. So Oppenheimer created Godzilla, is what you're telling me.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay, that's cool. So yeah, there's a lot to weigh up there. I don't know, but I thought that was interesting to think about. And I am sort of maybe I'm totally wrong, but based on what you're telling me, Jan, and unless Fitzy has anything to add that contradicts anything, but it sounds to me like there still aren't any like clear answers. You know what I mean? You know, there's some things, like obviously you can look back in history and go, oh yeah, that was terrible. You know what I mean? But it feels like there was still some doubt there as to what was really the right choice, which is, I don't know, kind of interesting to think about, I think.
I like how you think there's a chance I'm going to give you a definitive answer on a major historical.
Oh, so
Unless
I didn't
Fitzy
mean it
says
like
anything
that.
different.
I didn't mean it like that. I'm just, yeah, if you guys had any takes or, because I don't know, I'm not the most educated person with that kind of thing.
I liked Florence Pugh and Emily Blunt in the film. Emily Blunt kind of had her moment scene, but like I didn't feel like they added like a lot in terms of the relationships or whatever. I thought that the early relationship with Pugh's character was pretty cool, like how she was like a kind of unstable like psychologist kind of person. I didn't get a lot of like emotion or anything out of that in general. Yeah.
I actually agree with that. I guess it serves Oppenheimer, but yeah, I get what you mean. I didn't really get a lot. I thought Emily Blunt was like really good. She really captured me on screen, but yeah, I think it's just their roles in the story never felt that essential, I guess, to me.
Was Florence Pugh's character killed by Casey Affleck?
Oh,
Yeah, this was a good theory that you guys had. Who came up with it?
I don't know.
Who-
Someone saw a gloved hand and someone assumed something else because the way it was cut together with like him saying like he'll kill people or whatever that shit. I didn't see the hand
Yeah.
personally. I just thought she killed herself, but I don't
Yeah,
know.
I'm with you. I didn't see
there was
it.
definitely a hand, but I think like in that scene he's like remembering, he's like thinking about it once she's already dead, because that happens after he meets with Passion stuff. So I think the argument is whether or not he just like projecting that based on his own guilt, which he does have in that scene where he's like talking to Emily Blunt, he's crying and shit.
Hmm.
Or whether Passion actually did something, which I don't think he did, but yeah, that's the argument.
Mm.
Oh, okay. So you think he is projecting it?
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
Okay.
Is he perhaps imagining his hand as the one to kill her?
Right.
Yeah,
Is
so
that what it would be?
that is the thematic idea, Jane. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, that's interesting. I didn't spot that at all.
I guess I
But,
can search it up and see if there's any historical fact based around it.
Yeah. That's right. And Oppenheimer also, like, there was that little brief moment where they focused on like he had an affair with another woman again. Like she had like a couple of
Oh
seconds
yeah.
screen time, but yeah, that was yeah.
Fucks around and finds out. Like he's a
Right.
dilettante, as they said, in communism and all sorts of stuff. Just does whatever.
Sure. Exactly, yeah. Andy wrote in his review for Oppenheimer. He says, I was very happy with posting my detailed thoughts on Letterboxd for Oppenheimer after the screening. You have to go to Andy's Letterboxd and check that out. This viewing genuinely meant everything to me, even if we sort of rocked up late to our seats. Jaden, did we or did we not rock up late to our seats?
Oh, I mean, like we got there and the last ad was like kind of playing.
So you would say no.
I mean, I'd consider anything
Here we go.
I do want to be there, like fucking for the ads, like for like comfortability's sake.
Anyway, Andy, we didn't miss a frame of the film, so I don't want to hear it. Anyway, some of you guys may have recalled me taking a pee during a film for the last two screenings we had with each other, being Indiana Jones and Mission Impossible. That even Luke asked me whether I needed to sit on the edge of the row before we started. Yeah, that's actually smart. Surprisingly enough, for such a long 3-hour film, I did not think about going to the toilet at one point whatsoever. Watching a Christopher Nolan on 70mm print was absolutely worth the half-empty bladder, which in turn became a tremendous IMAX experience to behold. The opening and closing shots of Cillian Murphy's Oppenheimer staring down at the puddle/pond left the biggest impression on me of it being Nolan's greatest film ever. Wow. Best character study of the decade, best biopic of the decade, most conflicting film about the power of science and quantum physics of all time. Luke can counterattack me with a better film if he wishes. Most crucial commentary of a man versus world domination, and maybe the most important film of our generation become because of the dangers and warnings of things to come in our time right now, coming from something or someone that might be as powerful as a man like Oppenheimer. I genuinely have nothing but outstanding praise for this, not for Nolan's excellence with delivering the most thought-provoking cinematic experience any man, woman, or them could have ever wished for in 2020 cinema. 10 out of 10. Holy shit. Okay. Huge, Andy. Huge stuff. Thank you very much. And Luke comes in, I think, with a similar sentiment here. Luke wrote in and said, a marvelous meditation on morality, science, and the power of man. As the modern-day Prometheus, Cillian Murphy delivers a deep and powerful performance that captures the grief and regret of the master of the atom. Nolan's use of sound and pictures transforms the cinema experience beyond what has come before. telling not only a scientifically literate story, but also a political exploration of the McCarthy era and the consequences of those brave enough to speak their minds. Oppenheimer stands alone in the films of 2023 as a masterpiece, with no one actor failing in any scene. As a viewer with a background in quantum physics, it was thrilling to see a film not only name drop, here we go, Gauss, Heisenberg, Bohr, Einstein, etc., but meaningfully incorporate them into the character and motivation of Oppenheimer, in particular the tension between Einstein's special theory of relativity and quantum mechanics. No doubt a Best Picture award is on the way. Outstanding. I wouldn't go that far, Luke. But the Academy is not a huge Nolan fan. Maybe this will change that. I don't know. But thank you. Two outstanding, glowing reviews right there. Huge.
I can only say that Spooky's review emerged after I prompted him to change it because his original one was dog shit.
What was it?
It just said enough said.
Oh, okay. I kind of like it. Enough said encapsulates that whole long review.
No, I wasn't looking for a long review. I like, you know, because like he has a track record of making like funny shit or whatever. So enough said was just such a poor attempt, Spooky. I'm just gonna be honest.
Okay, all right. I appreciate your honesty. That's good.
Also, you gotta remember with these, you know, best of all time reviews, this was before Andy saw Barbie.
Oh,
Luke hasn't seen Barbie yet, so you gotta take it with like a grain of salt.
Well, but Andy gave Barbie 3 points lower, so I don't think
but
change his mind.
Okay, ruin the joke, Jaden. Whatever.
Did Andy give Barbie 2 stars? Sorry, you're saying 6 out of 10.
3.5 stars, though, yeah.
I was wrong on my scale and my math at the same time. That's impressive. Okay, very, very nice. Thanks for writing in, guys. Let's do it. Let's get to our final verdicts for Christopher Nolan's Oppenheimer. Was it your most anticipated movie of the year, Jaden, actually?
Probably was, yeah.
Okay. What would you give it out of 10 then?
I give it an 8 out of 10. Can't fault it. Can't complain about it. Just kind of, I'm not able to attach myself to it at the moment the same way I have been able to attach myself to everything else he's made.
Yeah.
Especially first viewing wise, like everything else I've been able to latch onto like immediately, apart from like his very early stuff. But yeah, I think that's the one thing I'm missing from this one, but that should come later, maybe.
Yes. I'm in the exact same boat, and that's why I am also giving it an 8 out of 10. And that is to be, you know, like lower ranking Nolan is like still like top tier basically in any other film. Like of the, you know, this is going to be high on my films of the year list still probably, you know. So, but yeah, no, I totally agree with you.
Yeah, I don't want this to be misconstrued as there's like 2 whole points worth of things wrong with the film. Like
yeah, exactly.
Like no, it's pretty damn fucking good.
Yeah, I think another minor hurdle for me, just subjectively, as to why it's not all the way up there, is just because, like, it's great as much as I love the film's themes, and we talked about how it explores those really well. But I feel like I'm not gonna lie, like there was a part of me where I feel like I already understood the film's themes before I walked in. You know what I mean? Where like I understood the complications of the man just through vague history I knew, and the film reinforced them and did an amazing job with them. But I didn't really get anything new thematically out of watching the film outside of just like a visceral experience, which was great. But I didn't feel like, you know what I mean? I feel like I understood what the film was going to go for before I saw it, I guess. If that makes any sense. Fitzy, what about you?
Yeah, I shall copycat. I shall also give it an 8 out of 10.
Nice.
Yeah.
We
Most
hate it.
important film of all time.
Most important film, yeah.
I like how
Oh no.
the lowest aggregate reviewer on Metacritic.
What? Oh, really? Would we be with an 80?
I don't know. Probably, I'm sure there's probably
Honestly.
a hater out there with like a 40, but
Yeah.
Oh, I actually saw on Metacritic there was like 150 positive and like 1 mixed, 0 negative. And then the mix was like a 55 or something.
There you go.
Yeah.
We do qualify as haters, I guess, now.
I guess so, yeah. We're conscientious objectors. How does it feel to praise a movie for an hour and then like we're getting called out for not liking it enough? Oh god. No, we won't. We won't. It was great. Now let's get into our highlights of the week. Exciting stuff. Fitzy, what have you been watching? Let's go.
I watched Barbie.
Yes, I knew it.
Yeah. No, it was really great. it was really just a funny film, a really solid, piece of entertainment. Just the kind of, fish out of water story of Barbie in the real world, and then the story actually develops into something that's pretty interesting and funny. When they go back to Barbie Land, it kind of changes. But like, yeah, Ryan Gosling as Ken is just like hilarious. Like, I think like everyone's kind of saying that he's like really funny in the film, but it is like I think like one of my favorite comedic performances. It's just like every second that he's on film is just knee jerk, laughter, and just thinking about some of his fucking lines and his delivery is the film's like way more about Ken as much as Barbie than it has like any right to be, being like a feminist film. Yeah, like narratively everything worked for me, but like emotionally there was some like things like scenes I just had to like kind of sit through. I felt like, oh yeah, but like I felt like it had like a kind of like a cringe like threshold or something, and like the film like an inevitable cringe threshold. Like I've seen the trailer and there was some like jokes that fell flat and stuff and didn't land, and I knew there were going to be like a bunch of stuff like that, and the film was like inevitable. And like I never felt like the film like went over that threshold, that meter,
Okay.
So like
Yeah.
the cringe stuff that happened in the film I'd already accounted for, so like it's all good, I already like factored that into the equation. So no, I ended up really liking it. It was really great. Yeah. And the set design and everything was just like fantastic, obviously. Yeah. Costumes and sets and shit.
Wow. Wow. This is sounding like it's rivaling like the whole Barbenheimer thing. It's rivaling Oppenheimer here apparently. Like, which is better?
Yeah, I don't know. I have to wait for Cinema Effect Awards, but
Oh, true. Yeah. Nice, good tease. It's like ages away, but good tease. Anyway, we finished Ted Lasso this week. Another fantastic season, man. Just thoroughly enjoyed it. They did this thing. I know Fitzy from seasons 1 to 2 how those episodes got longer. And it's not even like, I don't know, like there's not even anything I would take out, but I feel like the show lost its identity a bit in this season with choosing to go with really long episodes, man. There are episodes in season 3, like I want to say half of them are over an hour long. And for a show that started off as half an hour episode, that's pretty significant. And again, not that there's anything where it's like, oh, this feels long or anything like that. Like I think they're well-crafted episodes. I don't have any complaints in that regard, but it does just feel like a bit of an identity shift that I still struggle to get on board with entirely by the end. Regardless of how entertaining it was sort of like, I don't know, I'm watching Ted Lasso and it's like, I would have almost rather you just give me more episodes of a shorter length in a way and still cover the same ground. I know that's sort of, it's easier said than done. But anyway, that was sort of my only weird drawback with the season. I thought it was great, really on par with season 2 for me. Everything they did with the characters, they gave it a really resolute ending. It's like, it's definitely the last. It's not coming back. I don't think. There's no way it could. It was pretty definitive. So it was really cool to just have this great show go out on a 3-season run. That was felt like I don't know, very much very different shows, obviously, but very much feels like a Succession situation where they made the right call and where they wanted to end it, and they went out on a high. And I think they did a great job.
Did you?
Yeah.
Did you like have issues with like the start of the season, like the first few episodes?
Yeah, you've said that, but no, I didn't. What were you feeling?
I just hated it. Like I just felt like the show lost any of its like weight or anything.
Really? No, I didn't feel that.
Maybe I wasn't in a Ted Lasso mood. Maybe I was.
Yeah, you're the problem.
What happened? Yeah. Maybe I was a Nate. Yeah, but
yes,
like saying are you saying that it's the final season? I'll probably finish it now. Like,
that is a good motivator for sure. Yeah, because if it was just like, oh yeah, and they'll come back for another 3 or whatever, but no, yeah, they did a really good job. Jason Sudeikis, and to me, like the two standouts in the show. I must say, as the show's gone on, it's not that much of a shift from season 2. So if you're already, I know you like season 2, so it's not going to be an issue. But the show definitely shifted away from Ted after season 1. I think like it became much more of an ensemble show. I know it's called Ted Lasso, but there's some episodes where like you haven't seen Ted in like half an hour, which is fine. But
for a half hour episode show,
just focus. Well, it doesn't anymore. It did, but in season 1. But yeah. Imagine if it did that in the first season. yeah, and just the dialogue, man. I can't get over how wholesome the dialogue is, and that the way the actors always deliver it. That's probably the main thing the show always stood out to me as doing so well, is how like they just I don't know, like I would need to like play an example scene of like how they all work perfectly together off each other in a moment to like deliver just something really charming that like shouldn't work and it's kind of cringe like on paper, but it's just hilarious when it all plays out. And I still continues the trend I think I've talked about before of I love all the film references, man. I love it. The fact that like literally if for some reason like it's clear the writers are passionate because like literally every single character on that show is like a cinephile for no reason. It's like really funny. So yeah, I always enjoy that. Ted Lasso was great. Jaden, what have you been watching?
I've watched nothing at all.
Oh my god, not even like a Twitch stream.
I've probably had streams open. Do you want me to talk about those?
No.
No. Okay.
All right, now comes the segment where we hand the show over to you with our question of the show. Last week we asked you, I didn't put the exact wording here. What is in a movie based on a true story, which name the actor who looks the least like their real life counterpart? Is that about right?
Yeah.
That gets close enough.
Yeah.
I hope so. Andy said, Donnie Yen as Ip Man. Too fucking handsome than his real life counterpart. Yeah, well, that's definitely the main theme. Also, that guy who played Bruce Lee, who's also Ip Man's student, coincidentally, in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, too fucking stupid than his real life counterpart.
No, that's invalid. No, that's a very accurate Bruce Lee.
You don't think Tarantino was unfair to Mr. Lee?
Oh, this thing. Oh, no.
Remember that?
Yeah.
I mean, that was comedy gold, so I don't mind. But maybe it's disrespectful. I don't know. I really don't know. That's the only good answer we got because Luke.
Yeah, don't read
decided
out
to
Luke.
rebel.
No.
You don't want me to read
We're
it?
banning it this week.
Banned.
Cool. No, I'm happy to accept that. That's fine. Luke, you don't like our questions?
I don't know. He has the balls to say that that's a poor question. After
crazy,
the shit he's
dude.
done, and he doubled down. I was messaging him about it, and he doubled down on that statement. I was like, oh my fucking god.
So you two, it is clear now there is some sort of internal war going on with the question of the week because you two hate each other's questions.
I couldn't remember. Did Liam make this or did I make this?
Oh no, Liam made
Liam
this.
made it.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. But look, but you hate Spooky's questions.
From memory, yes. Unless he's contributed some belter in the past on Parasite, which I can't really remember. But
nah, I can't either.
His recent slate, no, piss poor.
Damn, dude, we've definitely lost our fan. We've definitely lost our patron.
Nah, he loves it.
He loves being shit talked. Oh man, oh god. Anyway, well, thank you, Luke, for hating on the question. Hopefully, you like this week's question better. I don't know. All right, what did we come up with for this particular question? And I'm also, just as a bonus, curious as to the means in which you used to find your answer, Jaden.
I went through like I told you boys like last week, like my idea, and I was pretty set on it. But I went through like some of my top rated movies just to like see if there was anything else there. Ed Warren is one that always strikes me from The Conjuring. Patrick Wilson.
I need to see the real guy.
Well, the first photo that comes up is him probably at an older stage of his life, so it's probably not entirely fair. But like even the photo they used at the end of The Conjuring, like those are pretty poor comparisons, I think.
Oh yes,
yeah.
It sounds like he's in The Sopranos.
Yeah,
he does. That's great.
So I will say that if you boys want to take what I said last week.
Holy shit, he looks nothing. That's crazy, dude. That's a great answer. What do you mean if we want to take? What do you mean? Sorry.
If you want to take If you want to take what I said last week.
I can use it. Yeah.
You're not going to take that, Fitzy, are you?
No. It's not something I was thinking of.
Oh, okay.
No,
the other one was Beneath Hill 60. That cast is very, very, very different. But,
look up Beneath Hill 60 cast versus real life. Yeah, that's a great one.
Hold on. Oh, sorry. Actually, in saying that, did they mention in Oppenheimer the biggest explosion in history prior to the atomic bomb?
They said like that ship or whatever.
Yeah, they said the ship, but that's wrong because it was the Beneath Hill 60 explosion that was the biggest until the atomic bomb.
Really?
Well, that's what that film touts anyway.
Where was Beneath Hill 60? Was that Gallipoli or was it somewhere else?
It was on the other front, wasn't it? Wasn't it on the Eastern Front? Western Front? It was on the Western Front, not the Eastern Front, I think.
I'm not sure.
Interesting.
Okay.
Because I think like there was like French people around, wasn't there?
Oh, like that one guy who was like, wasn't it like that kid? Oh, was he Australian? I can't.
No, the kid was Australian.
No, I think it was
Please
French
don't.
people.
Don't tell me you're talking about Tiffin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Beneath Hill 60 Cinema Effect episode, anyone?
That'd go hard. We could invite like the entire like
Cohort.
just plus on.
The entire
Yeah.
It would have to be like a open mic, like panel or something.
Yeah, Discord chat.
Oh, Jesus Christ, that's wild. For me, there's probably better answers, but I just wanted to pick one that like I actively felt at the time watching it. Like actively. It wasn't even just like a realization afterwards or anything like that. And that is no disrespect to Dominic West. No disrespect to the man. You know, I think he's an accomplished actor. I haven't really seen him in anything outside of The Crown.
Is that the Wire?
Dude, this guy, yeah, the Wire guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know he's in that. Dude, he looks nothing like Charles, man. He looks nothing like him. And I think he's really good in the show. Don't get me wrong. I think he's really great. You know, no hate. But man, he looks nothing like Charles. Like distractingly so in the show. Like every scene he's in, I'm like, this is a great performance. But he looks nothing like him. And I thought that like 50 times throughout the whole thing. So it was noticeable. I'll say that. What do you reckon, Jaden?
There's like one photo that's not too bad, but then like there's some other ones I'm like,
the actor in
see it in motion, man.
in Spencer looks way more like Charles. You know, the guy who played Charles in that.
Oh, I need to see that. I can't remember.
I haven't seen the film, but
all the headlines here are too hot to be Prince Charles though. So I mean, like I guess
that's not terrible.
Yeah.
I will say though, the guy, because all the Crown actors changed, the guy who played younger Charles, like 20-year-oldish Charles, he looked fantastic. So it was distracting that you went from like him to Dominic, because they don't look anything like each other either. So it was like you could argue like, oh, Dominic doesn't look like Charles, but he looks like the previous guy. He didn't. So that was kind of weird too. Oh yes, I see this guy. Yeah. No, he's not even amazing, but he's definitely better. Definitely better. I agree with that. In Spencer. Fitzy, what do you got?
well, like as the originator of the question, unfortunately, I don't think I've had this. Well, I can't at least remember like this kind of experience of like, you know, shock when I see like the after photos or some shit. But Michael Fassbender, I guess, doesn't look like Steve Jobs, but that's not the one I want to talk about. I guess like
Doesn't look like who?
Steve Jobs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like the one I want to talk about more is like just there was two films based on Truman Capote when he wrote In Cold Blood. There's Capote and the other one with Toby Jones and Infamous. And Toby Jones like looks way more like Truman Capote. Like he's probably like the closest actor you could possibly get to looking like Truman Capote, because Truman Capote's got like a weird kind of face. No offense.
Wow.
Yeah, I
Cop that, Toby.
But like yeah, Philip Seymour Hoffman doesn't look a lot like Capote at all, but he kind of makes up for it in the voice, at least from what I've seen, like clips and trailers and shit. But yeah, the comparison is just really funny because like Philip Seymour Hoffman's like the more known actor and like more known role for playing Capote, but Toby Jones just looks like that much more like him.
I'm trying to find a real photo of this guy now. Oh, here we go. Oh yeah, I agree with you. Definitely.
And Toby Jones is actually short. They tried to make Philip Seymour Hoffman short in the fucking other film. He was like bending down the whole time or some shit.
Wait, so I don't even. Who is Truman Capote? A novelist, screenwriter? Who is?
Yeah, well, he was a writer. You're right.
Oh, okay.
In Cold Blood and Breakfast at Tiffany's, which Audrey Hepburn was in film.
What about him is? This is obviously super ignorant. What about him is so significant that he has two films made about him?
Well, like in Cold Blood, he kind of like fell in love with like the guy who killed a bunch of people, and the guy who he wrote his like book about. But he was like of his time, he was like one of the most popular authors. He was like friends with like the writer of To Kill a Mockingbird, like Lee Harper or whatever her name was.
Cool. Is it? So you mean he based in that book on someone that he fell in love with? Is that what you mean, or he didn't fall in love with a fictional character?
No, yeah. He fell in love with like a murderer kind of. And then he wrote the book about the murder, and the story.
But it was a real thing.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting. Cat sounds like. All right. As always, we'd love you to submit your responses, thoughts, and/or reviews for next week's film in the YouTube or Instagram comment sections, or join the Discord server. This week, the specific question we'll be asking you is, and you'll never guess what the film is. You'll never guess. It is: do you honestly think you could win the Hunger Games? And if not, where would you place? You get the idea. You get the gist. You know what I mean? We just want to know how you'd fare in the Hunger Games. Is basically what we're asking. So feel free to respond with any of your potential strategies and all that sort of shit. Although the Hunger Games are ever evolving, as you know, so it's hard to really have strategies sometimes. Anyway, that's it for this week's episode of Cinema Effect. Thanks everyone for tuning in. Fitzy, or maybe you're gonna swerve me. Like, what are we doing next week? I don't know.
We're doing the second most important film of all time. After Oppenheimer, of course. The start of the most important franchise of all time, about the devastating effects of fascism on mankind, and the power of rebellion. The Hunger Games. Just on stand.
You say that, but like Hunger Games really gave life to the whole young adult novel adaptation frenzy that we saw between like.
It's not mocking the Hunger Games more than it's mocking the sentiments towards Oppenheimer.
Okay.
It's more ridiculous. Oppenheimer, I feel like.
Sorry, I got defensive there for no reason.
Hang on, but let's be real. It's just Harry Potter. You know what I mean?
What?
It's just Harry Potter.
What's Harry Potter?
Hunger Games.
On
that note,
I can't tell what you're fucking trying to do.
I don't know either, man. All right. We appreciate everyone tuning in. Appreciate Liam and Jane for joining me as always. Catch you all next time. Have a great one and goodbye.